I had learned to live without him. I had learned to breathe without him, sleep without him, and raise our daughters without him. I had even learned, God help me, to be almost happy without him. And that was the cruelest thing about the night he came back. I had already survived him, but then I had to do it all over again. My name is Layla Monroe, and I was making breakfast when I saw him. Scrambled eggs. Ava liked them soft, Noelle liked them firm. And after 14 months of doing it alone, I had finally mastered the timing. I was standing at the stove in my old sweatshirt, spatula in hand, and I was almost happy. Then I looked up, and everything stopped. He was standing outside the kitchen window, still, watching me. I knew his face better than my own. I had traced it in the dark more times than I could count in the months after the knock on the door, trying to hold on to the shape of it before grief dissolved the details. But the man outside my window, the man wearing my husband's face, was not looking at me the way Ethan Monroe had ever looked at me. He was looking at me the way you look at something you're not sure is real. The spatula hit the floor. I don't remember the back door. I remember cold air, bare feet on the porch steps, and then my hands shaking on his face. Real, solid, warm. Ethan. He put his arms around me. I collapsed into him, every molecule of the grief. I had spent 14 months compressing, detonating at once, and I held on and said his name and felt his chest rise and fall against mine. But here is the thing I will never be able to explain away. The thing I felt before I had the language for it. He didn't hold me back. Not the way he used to. Not with the full body warmth of a man who is relieved and grateful and time's home. He held me the way you hold a stranger who is crying carefully, correctly. Like a task being completed. I pulled back and looked at his face. His eyes were somewhere I couldn't reach. That's when I knew. Not about what he'd done. I didn't know that yet. Not about what was coming. I couldn't have imagined that yet. But I knew, standing on my back porch in the early morning cold, that whoever had come back through that window was not entirely the man I had buried. Something else had come back with him. And it was already watching me. Let me tell you about the man I married. Ethan Monroe made you feel, simply by being in the room, that things were going to be all right. Not because he performed optimism, but because he was time steady. Quietly, consistently, genuinely steady, in a way I had never encountered before. We met when I was 26, 4th of July barbecue. He was in uniform, home on leave, going back in 3 weeks. He made me laugh within 10 minutes and kept doing it for 4 hours. And by the time the fireworks started, I already knew this was going to matter. We did 2 years of long distance, got married in October. Small ceremony, backyard, my mother's earrings. Ava came first, then Noelle, 3 years later. The life we built was not glamorous, a mid-sized house, a military calendar of deployments and reunions, the ongoing project of rebuilding intimacy across the gaps. We were good at it. He deployed twice before the third time. The third goodbye was different. I couldn't name it then. There was a weight to it, an extra moment, before he let go of my hand. 3 months later, Colonel Briggs knocked on my door. I knew what it was before I opened it. Every military spouse knows that knock. The chaplain, standing beside Briggs, confirmed it before a word was said. Missing in action, hostile territory, presumed dead. The word I held on to was times presumed. As if the universe were leaving a margin. As if death were still only a theory. I sat on the couch for 4 hours after they left. Then I drove to school, picked up my daughters, and told them their father was gone. Ava went still, his stillness, his exact stillness, in miniature. Noelle was 8 and didn't fully understand, which was its own particular kind of devastation. I held them both until they fell asleep. Then I went to the bathroom, sat on the tile floor, turned on the shower, and came apart completely. I allowed myself 20 minutes. Then I turned off the water, dried my face, went to bed. In the morning, I made breakfast. That was year 1. Marcus Hale was Ethan's younger brother by 4 years, and the honest version of him before everything changed was this. A beautiful disaster. Charming, effortless, perpetually late to things that mattered, borrowing money he didn't return, cycling through jobs and cities and explanations with the loose, unmoored energy of someone who had never fully landed anywhere. He had Ethan's jaw and his mother's eyes, and none of either one's reliability. Ethan had loved him with the patient love of an older sibling who had accepted that the job description included regular disappointment. 6 weeks after Briggs's visit, Marcus showed up at my door. No call, just his car in the driveway, and him on the porch with a bag over his shoulder, and an expression I had never seen on his face, something stripped of its performance, something that looked, against all precedent, like he was there for someone other than himself. I quit the thing in Portland, he said. I thought, if it's okay, I could stay for a while. Help. I looked at him for a long moment. The couch is uncomfortable, I said. That's fine. I need someone for school pickup on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay. And Marcus, I held his gaze. If you disappear on my daughters, I will never forgive you. Are we clear? Something in him steadied. Crystal, he said. I opened the door. Marcus was not Ethan. I want to be precise about that. He did not try to be. He found his own shape in our household. Not a replacement, not a substitute, but a new kind of presence that the house slowly made room for. He was good with the girls. Shockingly, genuinely good. He learned that Ava needed quiet after school, and Noelle needed the opposite immediate noise. Chaos, motion. He adapted to both without complaint. He fixed the gutter. He learned how I took my coffee without being told. We talked more than we had in the previous 5 years combined. Not just about Ethan, about everything. His failures and what lived underneath them. My marriage, and what had genuinely been good about it. The texture of grief, which is not one thing but many things arriving without schedule. One late night at the kitchen table, both of us with tea, neither of us was really drinking, he said, Ethan was always the one people counted on. I spent my whole life measuring myself against that, and coming up short. And now? I asked. He looked at his cup. Now I'm trying to just be here, without calculating whether I'm doing it right. That's exactly how he did it, I said quietly. He just showed up. Marcus nodded. We sat in that for a while. I want to be honest about what I felt during those months. What existed between Marcus and me was real, but it was not romantic. It was something more complicated. The bond of two people surviving the same loss from different angles, holding the same family together with different hands. I was grateful. I trusted him. I had begun to rely on him. That was all. That was also, I would learn, exactly enough to be catastrophically misread. 14 months after Briggs's first visit, he came back. Same knock. I was helping Noelle with a school project cutting colored stars from paper, and I heard it and my body went still before my mind caught up. Stay here, I told her. Briggs looked different at the door, not the rehearsed composure of bad news. Something else, the discomfort of a man delivering information he doesn't have a clean script for. Mrs. Monroe, there's been a development. Tell me, your husband is alive. The yellow star was still in my hand. He was recovered from hostile territory 4 days ago, Briggs continued. He's stable. He'll be home within the week. He paused. Mrs. Monroe, prepare yourself. He's been through a significant experience. He may not be the same, I finished. He met my eyes. Give him time. I nodded, closed the door, went back to the kitchen, sat next to Noelle. Who was that? She asked. I looked at my daughter, 8 years old, hearts in her homework margins, still certain the world was organized around her well-being. I wanted to keep her in that for one more minute. Someone with good news, I said, and I helped her cut out the star. He arrived on a Thursday. Marcus had taken the girls to his mother's. I had wanted the first reunion private. I stood in the driveway. The car pulled up. The door opened. He was thinner than I had ever seen him. He moved differently, carefully, as if he were relearning the ground. His eyes, when they found mine, were the right color, but they were somewhere else. I held him in the driveway. He let me. He put his arms around me and held on with his hands, but not with anything else. Not the way he used to, full body, warm, the embrace of a man who is exactly where he wants to be. This was different. This was a man completing the task of return. The girls came home that evening. Noelle ran to him, and he caught her, and I saw it. The first real smile, something cracking through the surface. And I thought, there he is. There's the man I married. Ava stood back, watched him with his own careful attention that inherited stillness, and when he opened his arms, she went to him slowly, measuring. She was 11. She was already watching exactly what I was watching. That night, after the girls slept, we sat in the kitchen. What do you need? I asked. Just tell me. He looked at his cup. I don't know yet, he said. I reached across and covered his hand with mine. He looked at my hand, then the window, then his cup. He didn't hold it back. I went to bed and lay in the dark listening to him move through the house below, checking doors, checking windows, checking again the sounds of a man who does not believe in safety anymore. I waited 14 months for this, I thought. Why does it feel like being alone? 2 weeks after he came home, I found him in the garage at midnight. I had woken to silence, the specific silence of a house where a sound has just stopped, and followed it downstairs, through the kitchen, to the garage door standing open. He was sitting on the concrete floor with his back against the car, knees up, staring at nothing. Ethan, he looked at me. Didn't startle. He had heard me coming. I realized he always heard everything now, cataloged every sound before it arrived. I sat down on the cold floor beside him. We sat in silence for a while. Then he said, without preamble, without looking at me, I did things over there. The air in the garage went very still. To survive, he said. He stopped. His jaw worked. There was a man in our unit, Alvarez. Good soldier. Good man. I waited. He was injured. We were in a compromised position. If we moved him, he stopped again. The silence stretched. Command made a call. What kind of call? He didn't answer. And in his silence, in the specific, weighted silence of a man who has carried something unlivable, I understood, without being told. They had left someone behind. Or worse. Ethan. I followed orders, he said. His voice was flat. Hollow. The voice of a man who has repeated this to himself so many times, it has lost all meaning. That's what you do. You follow orders, and you survive, and you come home. He looked at his hands. And then you come home, he said again, quieter, and you have to live with what following orders cost. I looked at my husband's hands. The hands that had held my daughters, fixed things around this house, reached for mine, across 1,000 ordinary tables. I thought about what those hands had been required to do in a country I would never see, in circumstances I would never fully understand. You came home, I said. You're here. Am I? He asked. And he wasn't being dramatic. It was a genuine question. The question of a man who was no longer certain of his own location in the world. I didn't have an answer. I sat with him on the cold garage floor until 2 in the morning. Then we went inside. and I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, understanding for the first time truly, in my body, that the war had not ended when Ethan came home. It had just moved. The first 3 weeks were careful. I made meals he used to love, kept the house quiet in the mornings, did not push, did not ask, did not force the intimacy that would have to rebuild itself, or not at all. I had read everything the counselor gave me. I understood, intellectually, what was happening to him. The nights were hard. Nightmares that woke him at 2 or 3, sometimes sounds, sometimes just the violent alertness of a man who has surfaced somewhere he doesn't trust. I learned not to touch him suddenly, not to approach from behind, not to let doors open without warning. I adjusted for everything. What I could not adjust for was Marcus. He had moved to a friend's apartment when Ethan came home, giving us space, doing the right thing. But he still came by for the girls. He had built something real with Ava and Noelle, and they looked for him, set a place for him on Sundays out of habit. Ethan began watching. Not confrontationally, at first, just noticing, cataloging. The specific hypervigilance of a man trained to identify threats, expressing itself in the architecture of his own home. The questions started small. When did Marcus start coming every week? How long was he staying? How much time with the girls versus with you? I answered honestly. I had nothing to hide. But there is an exhaustion that comes from proving an absence, from being questioned about things you know are innocent. Over and over, until the repetition begins to feel like its own kind of verdict. He was here because I needed help, I told him one evening. Bedroom doorway, him on the edge of the bed. You were gone. I was doing this alone. He showed up. And that's all. Yes. He looked at me with those eyes that were his and weren't his. You trust him. I do. He earned it. He's not reliable, Ethan said. He's never been reliable. He was, I said quietly. While you were gone, he was. Something moved across his face. He lay down, faced the wall. I stood in the doorway for a moment. Then I went downstairs and sat at the table where Marcus and I had talked through so many nights. And I tried to understand what was happening, not with anger, but with the careful, frightened attention of a woman watching someone she loves drift towards something she doesn't know how to name. 3 weeks after Ethan came home, I found something I was not meant to find. I was looking for the car insurance documents, a routine thing, the mundane errand of a functioning life. And I went through the bag he had come home with, the military-issue duffel that had been sitting in the corner of our room, still mostly unpacked. The insurance papers weren't in there. What was in there was a photograph. A woman. I didn't recognize her. Younger than me, maybe late 20s, dark hair, standing outside what looked like a building in a city I couldn't identify. On the back, in handwriting that was not Ethan's, were 2 words and a number. Find here, B. I stood in the bedroom holding the photograph for a long time. I told myself there were 100 explanations. Military contact, intelligence asset, someone connected to his recovery. I told myself that the circumstances of whatever had happened over there were beyond my frame of reference, and I should not map my civilian assumptions onto them. I put the photograph back. I did not ask him about it, but I also did not forget it. It sat in the back of my mind, that image, that handwriting, those 2 words, a seed of something I couldn't name yet, growing quietly in the dark. Find here. Who was she? What had she seen? And why had someone sent my husband home with her face? Noelle said it on a Sunday afternoon. All of us at the kitchen table. Ethan, me, both girls, Marcus, for his usual weekly lunch. Noelle, with the devastating accuracy of an 8-year-old who has not yet learned which truths require management, was telling Ethan about the year he'd missed. And Uncle Marcus comes every Tuesday, she said brightly. And sometimes he sleeps over when Mom has her bad nights. Noelle, I said. She looked up, surprised. And they stay up late in the kitchen. And I can hear them talking all the way upstairs. Finish your food, sweetheart. She went quiet. Children understand tone before they understand content. I looked at Ethan. He was cutting his food with precise, even movements, jaw set. The look of a man placing something in storage carefully, deliberately, for retrieval later. Marcus was looking at his plate. She means the early months, I said carefully. When I was struggling, Marcus being here helped. I know what she means, Ethan said. His voice was flat, a single, pressurized note. He looked up at Marcus. Marcus met it. Glad someone was here, Ethan said, and went back to his food. Nobody spoke for a while. Noelle asked for more bread. I gave it to her and kept my hands from shaking. 4 days after the Sunday lunch, I almost told him everything. He came downstairs early before the girls, before the world had started, and found me at the kitchen table with coffee and the photograph in front of me. I had taken it back out the night before, sat with it for an hour, decided that whatever it meant, keeping it between us, was the wrong call, that we had enough distance without adding secrets. He stopped when he saw what was in my hands. The stillness that came over him was different from his usual stillness. This was not the controlled quiet of a man managing himself. This was the stillness of caught. Where did you find that? He said. Not a question. Your bag. I was looking for insurance papers. He crossed the room, sat down across from me. He looked at the photograph for a long moment. Layla? Who is she? A pause. A beat too long. Someone from over there, he said. Someone who helped us. It's complicated. Complicated how? He met my eyes. And what I saw there was not the evasion of a man hiding an affair. It was something heavier than that. more frightened. There are things about what happened over there that I haven't told you, he said. That I can't, that I'm not ready to. He stopped. His hands were flat on the table. I need you to trust me. I'm trying, I said. But you came home different, and there's a photograph in your bag and you won't. She helped me survive, he said. 3 words. Simple. The kind of simple that is covering something enormous. I looked at him. How? I asked. And the silence that followed the specific shape of it, the way he held it, told me the answer was something I was not yet ready to hear. Give me time, he said. I picked up the photograph, held it for a moment. Then I put it face down on the table between us. You have until you're ready, I said. But Ethan, I can't help you carry something I'm not allowed to see. He nodded. He didn't pick up the photograph. I left it there between us. Colonel Briggs called on a Tuesday. He asked to meet in person without Ethan. That alone told me what kind of conversation it was going to be. We sat across from each other in a coffee shop near the base. He had a file in front of him that he didn't open. How is he? He asked. He's struggling, I said. You know that. His counselor. I know what Reeves is reporting. He looked at me carefully. What I'm asking is from where you sit. How is he? I thought about the garage at midnight, the precise cuts at the dinner table, the photograph. He's somewhere I can't reach, I said. And whatever happened over there, he's carrying it alone. He won't. Mrs. Monroe. Briggs folded his hands on the table. There's a reason he's carrying it alone. There are aspects of Ethan's recovery of the situation he was recovered from that are classified. That I cannot detail to you. He paused. What I can tell you is that what he went through, what he was required to do to survive, was not ordinary, even by the standards of that environment. I looked at him, the woman in the photograph, I said. His expression shifted, fractionally. Enough. Ethan made decisions under extreme duress, Briggs said carefully. Decisions that kept him alive. Those decisions have a cost. He is paying that cost. What decisions? I can't. Colonel. I leaned forward. He comes home with another woman's photograph and a look in his eyes like he's been to a place I don't have the clearance for. My daughters are watching their father disintegrate, and I am managing it alone with absolutely no information. Tell me something real. Briggs was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, quietly, precisely. He protected someone over there, for a long time. Someone who should not have survived. And the cost of protecting her was things he will have to decide whether to tell you himself. Was he in love with her? No. Immediate. Certain. It wasn't that. Then what? He looked at me. Ask him, he said. When he's ready, ask him. Yourself. I drove home with my hands exactly right on the wheel. Every control surface engaged. The way you drive when the inside of you is not safe to look at. 3 days before the dinner, Ethan found Marcus's jacket. It had been left on the hook by the back door. Marcus had forgotten it the previous Tuesday, and I had meant to return it and hadn't. It was a small thing, an ordinary oversight. Ethan came into the kitchen holding it. He didn't say anything. He looked at the jacket. Then, at me. He's been here this week, he said. He came for pickup on Tuesday. He forgot his jacket. You didn't mention he came. I turned from the counter to face him fully. I don't report his visits, Ethan. He comes for the girls. That's what he does. And when does he stop? His voice was controlled. Barely. When does my brother stop coming to my house to fill the role that's mine? That's not what's happening. Noelle calls him first. He set the jacket down on the table. When something happens at school, she calls Marcus. Did you know that? Last week she fell in gym class, and she called Marcus. Not me. I opened my mouth. Closed it. He was right. I had known. I had told myself it was just habit, a holdover from the year he was gone, something that would naturally correct itself. That's not a betrayal, I said carefully. That's a child who was frightened and called the number that answered for a year. I'm here now, he said. His voice cracked on the last word, just slightly. I'm here now, and she doesn't. He stopped, pressed the heel of his hand to his forehead. She doesn't know who I am. The pain in that was real, raw. The truest thing he had said since coming home. She knows who you are, I said. She's adjusting. We're all adjusting. To what? His eyes came up. Sharp. To me being back, or to me disrupting something you'd all figured out without me? The silence that followed was the longest we had ever had. That's not fair, I said. No, he said. None of this is. No. He walked out of the kitchen. I stood at the counter for a long time. Then I called Marcus. Sunday dinner, I said. Come. If we keep pretending normal doesn't exist, it's going to break something that doesn't need to break. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? No, I said. Come anyway. I set the table the way I always had. Good dishes, the candle in the middle, the girls helping with napkins. Normal. The performance of normal, which sometimes is the best you can offer a situation. Marcus arrived at 6:30. Noelle ran to him. Ava gave him a careful smile, reading the room. Ethan shook his hand a beat too long, a grip too precise, an assessment compressed into a greeting. We sat down. The first 40 minutes were almost fine. Noelle carried the conversation the way she always did, filling silence with her unstoppable momentum. Ava contributed dry observations. Marcus laughed. I watched Ethan, who was eating, responding, functioning, performing, his own version of normal. I thought, maybe this was right. Maybe normal is better than absence. Then Marcus mentioned the hike. October, 5 months ago, a Saturday in early fall. He described it in passing, that trail the girls love above the reservoir, with the easy familiarity of a man describing a memory that belonged to him. To him, of Ethan's daughters. In a life Ethan had not been present for. I saw the shift. In real time, something tightening around Ethan's eyes, something dropping the temperature behind them. "That sounds nice," he said. Single note, flat. Marcus heard it, glanced at me. I gave the smallest shake of my head. "Leave it. The girls are getting strong on the harder trails," Marcus pivoted. "They have a great uncle," Ethan said. The word uncle landed with surgical precision. Silence. "Ethan," I started. "I'm just observing." His voice was still controlled, but it was the control of something under enormous pressure, the kind that doesn't hold indefinitely. "You know my daughter's favorite trails. You know how they take their eggs. You know which one calls you first when she falls down." His eyes moved to me. "How long has this been your family?" "It's not like that." "Then tell me what it's like." He looked at Marcus directly. "Tell me what you call it when a man moves into a house, sleeps in it, raises children in it, sits at the head of a table that isn't his." I never sat at the head. I was in a hole. Ethan's voice finally broke its register. Not loud yet, but cracked, fractured, something coming through the controlled surface. "I was in a hole in the ground for 14 months. People died. He stopped. His hands were on the table. "And you were here, in my house, at my table, with my children, with my wife." "Nothing happened," Marcus said. "Steady. Ethan, look at me. Nothing happened between Layla and me. Nothing." "I know what I see. You're seeing something that isn't there." "Girls," I stood, "upstairs, now." "Mom, Ava. Now, please." They went. Noelle looked back from the doorway with Ethan's own wide, careful eyes, and I held my face together until she was gone. Then I turned back. Ethan was on his feet. He didn't remember standing. I could see the dissociation in it, the way his body had moved on a signal that bypassed whatever remained of his conscious control. His breath was coming fast and wrong. His eyes were somewhere else, somewhere with bad lighting and worse sounds and no kitchen table. "Ethan, low, even, look at me." He looked at me. "You're home," I said. "You are in our kitchen. You are safe. You let him replace me. No one replaced you. You let him." "I survived," I said. My voice cracked on it. "That's what I did. I survived. And he helped me do it. And if you cannot separate that from a betrayal, then the problem isn't what happened in this house while you were gone. It's what happened to you over there that you still won't tell me." The word there detonated something. He swept the table. Not a shove, a full, violent clearance, arm coming across with the force of everything that had been building since he came home. And the sound of it, glass and dishes, and the candle hitting the floor, cracked through the house like a gunshot. Noelle screamed upstairs. Marcus was on his feet. "Don't," I said to him. "Don't move." I looked at Ethan. He was standing in the wreckage, chest heaving, hands shaking. His eyes, and this was the moment that would stay with me forever, that I would replay for years. His eyes came back. From wherever they had been. From the hole, from the thing with Alvarez, from the photograph, from all of it. They came back and found me standing in our kitchen, surrounded by broken things. And the look on his face was not rage. It was horror. "Layla," he said. His voice, his real voice, the one I had married, the one I had memorized in the dark, came out broken and stripped of everything except itself. "I know," I said. I'm not." He looked at his hands, shaking. "I'm not who I was. I know. I can't find," his voice fractured completely. "I can't find my way back." I crossed the room. I stood in front of him. And I said the truest thing I knew. The thing that had been building in me since the garage floor at midnight. Since the photograph. Since Briggs's coffee shop non-answers. "You didn't just come back broken, Ethan. You came back dangerous. And I love you. I will always love you. But I cannot let dangerous live in this house with my daughters." He looked at me. The full weight of it landing. No deflection. No management. Just the truth. Between us. Finally. He sat down on the floor among the broken things. And I sat down beside him. Because that is the thing about love that no one tells you. It doesn't require you to be safe. It just requires you to be honest. And we had finally, at tremendous cost, arrived at honest. Dr. Reeves arrived within the hour. Marcus sat outside on the porch steps, with the girls Ava holding Noelle, both of them in their coats, not talking. I let the doctor in, stood in the hallway, listened to my husband's voice behind the closed door, becoming, gradually, less pressurized. Ethan agreed to the residential facility 2 days later. He sat across from me the morning after the dinner and said, quietly, with the clarity that sometimes follows a crisis, "I need more help than I'm getting." "I know." He looked at me for a long moment. "The woman in the photograph," he said. "She was a civilian, caught in the wrong place. I kept her hidden for 6 months, and the cost of keeping her hidden was," he stopped, "Alvarez. I let command make a call I should have fought, because if I fought it, they would have found her." The silence was enormous. He had let a man die to save a woman no one was supposed to know about. He had followed orders and called it survival, and come home carrying it like a stone in the chest. "Did she make it?" I asked. "Yes." "Then you saved her. And Alvarez." "And Alvarez," I said. "Both things are true, Ethan. Both things can be true." He closed his eyes. "Go get the help," I said. "Come back when you can be here. Not just in the room. Here." He left on a Wednesday. It has been 8 months. He calls twice a week. The calls are better than I expected. He is working, connecting, carrying the weight differently. He asks about the girls in detail and listens to the answers. He told me about Alvarez in full, 2 months in. in a call that lasted 4 hours and left me sitting on the kitchen floor in the dark after it ended. I cried for an hour. Then I picked up the phone and called him back and said, "You did something impossible in an impossible situation." That's not the same as being a bad man. He didn't answer for a long time. Then, "You don't know that." "I know you," I said. "I know who you are without the war, and I know those things don't cancel each other out. Whether he comes home to this house, to me, to what we were, I don't know yet. I hold that uncertainty without forcing it into a shape it isn't ready for." Ava is 12. She has his stillness, and she has started writing in a notebook she keeps private, just things I notice. She told me, and I think she is going to be extraordinary. Noelle turned 9. She is fully, loudly, completely herself. She asked last week if Daddy was coming home for her birthday. "I don't know, sweetheart, but he'll call, and he'll want every single detail." She accepted this. Children are more resilient than we protect them from being. Marcus comes on Tuesdays. He is 3 months into a job at a youth outreach center. He is, against all previous evidence, becoming someone reliable. Grief did that. Loss has a way of landing people. And me? I go to the studio. I restore broken things. I do it slowly and without rushing the process, because I have learned this year, at significant personal cost, that you cannot will something whole. You can only do the next right thing and trust that it accumulates. I loved Ethan Monroe. I love him still, not simply, not without grief, but in the way that survives knowing someone completely. Fractures, darkness, moral weight, and all. That love doesn't require a particular ending. It doesn't require him to come home unchanged, or come home at all. It just requires me to keep showing up. For my daughters, for myself, for the life that exists here, smaller than I planned, more honest than I expected, built in the rubble of everything I thought I knew. Some nights I hear a sound and my body goes still before my mind catches up. And then my mind arrives, and I breathe. And I go back to whatever I was doing, because that is what surviving looks like, up close. Not triumph, not resolution, just the next breath, and the one after that. Chosen. They told me my husband was dead. They were wrong about that. But survival and return are not the same thing. A man can come home to a house and still be lost in a country only he can see. He can sit at your table and sleep in your bed and be 10,000 miles away in a hole in the ground, making a decision that will cost him everything he thought he was. I waited for him. I would wait again. But I've learned at the cost of a broken table and a photograph I still think about and the sound of my daughter screaming from upstairs that love is not a rescue. It is a witness. I was here. I saw him, all of him, and I chose, every single day, to stay in the room. Even when the room became dangerous. Even when the man in it was no longer the man I'd married. Even then, you didn't just come back broken. You came back dangerous. And I loved you through all of it. But love was never going to be enough to save you from yourself. Only you could do that. I was just the woman who stayed in the room long enough to tell you the truth. If you liked this story, please support us by subscribing. And kindly drop a comment on the location from where you're watching. Thank you.